Welcome, everyone. We are live once again. It is the first Thursday of the month, and we do this every month together where we go live. This is turning advisors into authorities, and I'm just so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. So again, we are going to be talking about the ways that trust is built. And so no surprise, these lives have that kind of continuous theme to them. So, but just before I jump in, I know this is always slightly delayed, but if you could let us know if you can hear me, see me okay, there's no technical issues going on. It just helps me out so much so that, we can continue on with the live with no issues. That would be wonderful. If you don't know, I am Natalie, and I'm a brand strategist for financial advisors. I help them discover their niche and craft their positioning and tell their stories to attract their dream clients. And again, that's what we're going to be talking about today, is attracting your dream clients, right? This is pulling, not pushing. This is quality, not quality. Oh my gosh, words today are difficult. So if you could let me know, post in the comments that you can hear us and see us okay, that would be amazing. I would appreciate you so much. Thank you. So, oh, wonderful, James. Everything is good. We can hear you. We can see you. Fantastic. So let's talk about, why we're here today, right? The typical advice, especially that you see on LinkedIn, which is where we're kind of going live today. The advice that you're seeing on LinkedIn is like post more, comment more. And that's not to say that that's wrong, but it's just, with the evolution of AI and so many people doing this, everybody's feed is absolutely flooded, and we are all beholden to the algorithm gods, right? And so this makes this even more difficult to attract your dream clients, right? But the good news, right, where the public is, the public feed is super loud, for us, that makes going private even more valuable, right? That's even more important to talk about today with you. So if you think about it, right, you think about your feed and what that looks like compared to when someone sends you like a nice researched and relevant note, you're probably a little bit more likely to respond to that one, right? So that's what we want to do more of, but, right? That doesn't mean that we're now pitching more privately. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. We want to do things really differently. So today, again, just kind of having the conversation about going from quantity to quality and how to do this right, and going from things like cold templates to more researched, permission-based outreach. That's what we're going to talk about today. And so we're going to take you through 4 steps I've been promising you. So a framework. And so I want to kind of go over a little bit of this framework. And so we're going to clarify the promise, right? And so for us today, that just means we're going to be reaching out with the information that your ideal prospects actually want. Then we are going to, number 2, we're going to be documenting those receipts. And I've talked to you guys a little bit about what that means, right? It's showing proof that they can see that you are the expert. And we're going to continue to talk about that. Number 3 is that permission-based outreach, and we're going to show you exactly what that looks like today. And number 4 is about standardizing how you start. And so you're not going to just understand this framework and how it works. You're going to actually build your own, something that you can use this week. And so I'm really excited to kind of get into the nitty-gritty with you this week. And I think I've brought the perfect person to help us do this, right? So I want to go ahead and introduce Brock from 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗺. Brock has over 10 years of sales experience. And what he's doing in 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗺 is really unique. When I saw the report cards that 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗺 gives, I was super impressed and knew I wanted to have a relationship. So Brock, can you please, introduce yourself to the audience and explain a little bit about why why you're an expert in this area and how you can help advisors do this even better.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that introduction. Super excited to be here. Excited to talk with you all and hopefully give you some awesome takeaways, as Natalie mentioned, that you can take from this. That's my hope here, of some quick learning, something you can implement here in the next week and see some success there. So a little bit about me. Thanks, Natalie, again for the intro. So yeah, I have over 10 years of experience in the sales world. Started out at a smaller company 10 years ago or so. I think I was employee number 14. We grew that to an over 500 person organization. I've built multi-million-dollar sales teams, and now that I'm with 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗺 here in the advisor space, we've almost, since I've been there, doubled the amount of firms we've worked with, and this has all been through what we're talking about today. All of the success we've seen has been personalizing the outreach more, but in a more relevant way. And I'm excited to talk to you about the difference between personalized relevant outreach and just simple personalized outreach. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. What 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗺 is, the company I work for. This is a financial planning, prospecting tool you can use in your practice to provide something of value, more of a give first outreach mechanism. And so the report card, we can talk about that in a little bit, but that's kind of just a little bit about me. So
well, thank you so much for that. That's fantastic. And I'm so excited to chat about this. So excited to take everybody through the framework. I think this is something that, and I mean, everybody's chatting about AI, right? But with everything that AI is doing, it's so loud out there, right? It is just incredibly saturated, and we really have to kind of change up I think just the way trust is being built is just shifting under advisors' feet all the time, right? So for us to kind of stay on top of these conversations and talk about how trust is being built today and how this is continually evolving and changing is just so important. So I'm just excited to be able to bring someone who's an expert in sales to continue to have this conversation with my audience and be able to share that. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Brock. This is going to be great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, to start, let's talk about that first step, right? And so I'm okay if you want to kind of take us through kind of these 4 steps, great. But from what I understand, we're going to start by talking about how to figure out, that conversation that clients really want to have, right? Clarifying the promise. So what does that mean to you? And what does that mean for advisors who are selling in the DMs?
Yeah, I would say that's going to tie back into personalization. Of course, I think we hear this all over. I'm sure everyone here has heard this all over LinkedIn. Your sales gurus, you're promising, hey, if you personalize your outreach, it's going to result in better, responses, better conversations. That's true. I think where the caveat there is, it needs to be relevant. So when we're clarifying this, you can't just, let's say, and I have a couple examples here I can show you, but you can't just personalize it and say, hey, Natalie, saw your recent webinar. Do you want to buy my thing? Right? That's still salesy, even though I personalize, or even if I said, hey, noticed you live in Canada. I have a friend there. Do you want to buy my thing? That's, even though it's personalized, it's not relevant, and it doesn't tie back to what it is you're trying to do. And ultimately, we're trying to help people with the problems they have, solve the problems they have. And so when I think about clarifying this, the relevancy is really what we're looking for here. So I have an example I can show you, but really you want to reach out and personalize something that's relevant to what it is you're doing. So if I were to go ahead,
I was just going to say that it's about, this is sometimes difficult, but sometimes when you notice things, right? When somebody connects with you, oh, I noticed this on your profile, or I noticed you attended this, or I noticed you checked out my website. You know what I mean? There are ways to make that simpler for yourself, but just to be able to, even as simple as I am paying attention to you, right? In some way makes a difference to start the relationship, rather than like, I noticed you had a website. Let me, Let me talk to
Yeah.
you about this and this and this, which we get in the DMs, all day long, right? So it's not that. That's absolutely not what we're talking about. And so, yeah, 100%. I'm excited to kind of let's get clear on the difference, right? The real difference about what that level of personalization means and how to do that right.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I actually put together a quick presentation, just kind of lay the groundwork. And I hope for everyone who's listening, it's quick. I'm not going to drone on about anything. I just want to kind of show with some research, some proven models of, hey, here's what's happening today.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
sorry, I'm flipping over to the wrong one.
Kind of just show, what's working, what's not working, what we've seen. And I'm happy to talk through what we're doing over here at 𝗕𝗿𝗪. I think it relates to everyone listening, and sales is sales. And ultimately what that is helping people with their problems and solving them, finding people that could benefit from your solution. So yeah, let's jump into this. And there we go.
There we go. Sorry, right button.
There we go.
Technology.
All right. Technology is hard. Okay, so I'll jump through this really quick, but I think it's important just to show, what's going on in this space and what we can do about it, how we can stand out from the competition. So again, here's real quick. I think there's actually 5 or 6 pages in here, but what I want to go over is the problem, which we've been talking about here. What isn't working, why this fails, what's working instead, and why it works. And then I have a couple examples in there too. So hopefully people can get some value out of here. So the problem, we can talk about this a little bit as well, but, and we did at the beginning, high volume cold emails, DMs, and I put in parentheses here, oftentimes they're AI driven. There's definitely something we can talk about in terms of appropriate uses for AI that's going to help you stand out. So I'm sure we've all, gotten DMs. You mentioned this at the beginning of the call, where it feels like an AI, even if a person wrote it. Now there's this whole, is this AI? Is this not AI? It's getting harder to distinguish, especially in the media with images and videos and things like that. But with messages, that's where we can really stand out. Is this something I would respond to? Does this sound human? And usually to make it sound that way, you got to write it, right? You can't have the AI write it.
Yeah. Now, and even sometimes I was going to say, like, even sometimes, and I know I've been guilty of this too, like in follow-ups, when you're saying, like, I noticed this, it's like you're sending that same template to everybody. And so we have to make sure, even, that as we're sending these templates, that there's something in it that's just makes them even just notice that this is not something that you can send to every single person, I think. And my beliefs there have evolved even in the last month. And so I am always learning and kind of changing as the landscape is, right? And so even I've been guilty of sending those kind of templates that you can send to everybody. It's still super relevant to what they're interested in, but can you add something, just like a little something, to make it so that they think, okay, she couldn't have sent this to every single person, right? And so I just more and more so I'm just believing that even that's more important.
Yeah, and I think honestly, there's a huge opportunity here, because as more and more, firms, companies are adopting AI and trying to input this into their sales processes, that opens up more space for you to differentiate yourself and say, okay, I'm going to hyper personalize and attach relevancy to my outreach messages. So instead of it being, I think templates are fine as long as they're customizable and you can loop in specific things relevant, hey, I noticed this, here's what I'm doing. Any interested in having a conversation around that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So AI, what we're seeing is, and I fell into the same trap. I mean, AI comes out, oh, now we can send, thousands of emails a day that are personalized to this person, but really they sound like AI and they still sound like sales. Appropriate uses for AI, what we think is AI should be driving human to human interactions for better conversations.
Yes.
It shouldn't be having those conversations. So AI can certainly help you research a person. It can help you pull information on their company and provide more relevancy to the conversations in your outreach. but it shouldn't and never will, in my opinion, replace human to human interactions. People want to have genuine conversations.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's good to get your thoughts there, Brock, because like you're right. Maybe that first message can be something that's, still targeted and still, still a template, but doesn't have to be super, super personalized that first go around. But I think it's important to get there though, right? To make sure at least when when you're asking that question, hopefully in that initial outreach, and they are responding personally back to you, that it is you kind of, then picking up the ball and responding back. So that's good to clarify.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. And as far as, in the sales process is kind of down the same lane. AI can certainly help you with your CRM, with, documenting, with, I think we all use it for meeting notes and maybe even creating tasks. That I think is an exceptional use of AI in the sales process, because sales is always going to be human to human. So yeah, I'm glad we agree there. I think AI is awesome, but there's certain things it's just not going to replace, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing I want to go over here, we kind of went over copy and paste templates as well. Pitching too early. So almost the same thing in terms of these messaging. When you reach out to someone and you say, again, hey, Natalie, I noticed this. We help companies increase their revenue 10x, and we have a proven model. Any interest in jumping on a call? Nobody gets on those calls, right? So if you immediately go in pitching, always, you're going to come back to the basics, right? I don't think I'm going to be talking about anything new here other than hopefully encouraging everyone. You want human to human interactions. The one thing I tell reps is, would you respond to this? So think before you send this message. Is this something you would respond to? Does it sound like, oh, this person does know me and maybe they want to have a genuine, I'm interested in having a conversation with them. Sure. Would you respond to that? Take a step back. Would I actually respond to that? Or does it sound salesy? And then reword it if not.
Do you think there's like a rule of thumb in terms of like how many messages, or like even just like a framework to kind of keep in mind or take people through before you get to that point of, and maybe I'm jumping ahead in your presentation,
No,
so don't let me, but just as we're talking about this, I just thought, yeah, like so many people fall into that, right? Where they want to kind of get to it in one or two messages because they're worried people will lose interest. So what is the way that we can like keep interest, and like how many messages, and what are the type of messages that we're sending? But I mean, maybe that's probably me jumping ahead.
No, you're good. I have, some examples in here, but I think I never want to say always or never. So when we set a framework that's send 6 messages, that's what works, right? Or send 7. Maybe on average we can figure that out. And I like honestly to keep it to 3 to 4. I think after that, and in the industry I'm in, what we're selling, any message after that we found really, requires just as much work or bandwidth, but isn't going to produce as much results as 3 or 4 messages.
Yeah.
So if they haven't replied by then they're probably not going to reply after that. Doesn't mean we won't come back later after some nurturing, posting relevant content. If they engage, that could create triggers where we do reach out again. But I think after that, you can, maybe people can say in the comments too, if I were to reach out to you 10 times on LinkedIn, even if my 11th message is relevant, hyper-personalized, you might respond to that, but you might look back at the past 10 and be like, wow, this guy's definitely trying to sell me something. Maybe I don't want to have a conversation with him. So,
yeah, that's a great call out for the audience. Like, has anyone really found the ideal number for them and the number that they would never do? I think that's an interesting question. So feel free to put in the comments, like your ideal number of DMs before, people get a response. And like, anything that maybe you've seen or you've experienced that maybe you don't appreciate and you would never do yourself to someone else. So feel free to put that in the comments. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I would be super interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
That'd
everybody
be
would. Yeah.
It'd be an interesting thing to talk about for sure. next up we have is chasing leads instead of conversations. So step one to providing more value, in my opinion, should be having a genuine conversation. I think people can shy away from this because they think maybe it's not as efficient use of my time. But I think I would stress that it is. We're looking for quality over quantity. If we're sending 1,000 DMs and only 2% are replying, that's only 20 or so people. But if we're sending 100 DMs and 20% are replying, that's less work, and you get the same amount of leads, and they're genuine conversations. But yeah,
I was just going to say, and I think there might even be like a mindset switch here for people, like, especially, because you have leads in quotes. It made me think like, we want to have the mindset, like, we're not generating leads here, right? We're not selling people. We're qualifying people. And
right.
I think when we can wrap our minds around having conversations with people who have expressed genuine interest in some small way, and then going into the DMs and continuing the conversation, it's important for even us on the other end to think like, I'm not pushing you into a sale. I'm not pushing you into a call, because that will change how you interact with those people, right? It's really like you having a really great understanding of what your ideal profile looks like, right? That ideal client profile, and trying to find out if these people are having the same pain, the same struggles, and that, if what they're experiencing and how they're relating to you fits that profile, like whether it makes sense. So I've just personally, I find that helps even my own mindset when I'm reaching out to people, for anybody who's uncomfortable with sales. And this is probably the reason why I'm more about, brand and attraction than I am, about sales, only because I have this like, and I'm sure a lot of people do, Brock, this like fear of not wanting to be pushy. Right. And I think a lot of advisors experience this. Nobody wants to feel like they are being a pushy salesperson. So it's important to have that mindset switch around, especially if you do understand your ideal client profile and your niche. This becomes a lot easier, that you are in fact qualifying to understand who this person is and whether they have those similar struggles to the people that you can genuinely connect with and you can genuinely help. And that's helped me.
Yeah, I love that. And I struggle with that too. I hate being pushy. And so I try and do everything I can to have the opportunity to have real meaningful conversations with people, uncover their pain, maybe even before I reach out. We can talk about, we're going to talk about that on this webinar, but inbound led outbounding, something Adam Robinson, if you guys are familiar with RB2B. But yeah, I hate being pushy. And so if I can have a genuine conversation, I understand, hey, this is relevant to you. It doesn't feel as pushy if it's like, I know this will help you because X, Y, and Z. We can, proof over promise. We can prove this because I know your problem. We've done it before. It doesn't feel as pushy as, I think this is your problem. Please, let's go on a call.
Right. Anyway, you're validating, like, is this what I'm hearing? Like, I'm trying to help you. I think that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jeffrey just put something in the comments. He said he sends 2 to 3 messages to create those conversations. I love that. I think that's something to remember, is one is not enough at times.
No,
we get busy.
Yep.
We get busy, even if it's a great message, right? Someone could send you something. You're like, oh yeah, you get looped into something. They follow up, a polite follow-up. Oh yeah, I need to get back to them. Maybe they forget again. So there is a sales process, right? But you kind of just have to find what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. Kind of depends on what you're offering as well too there. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to do a quick example of a bad message, or maybe a good message. You tell me. So Natalie, read through this. Everyone read through this. And then Natalie, I want you to tell me, would you respond to this person?
I help business owners like you maximize ROI and scale profits fast. My team has a proven system that generates guaranteed results. Let's book a quick 30-minute call this week so I can walk you through the process and show you how we can transform your financial future. Here's my Calendly link. Looking forward to connecting, John. Me.
Yeah. I'm sure you get these all the time. Am I right? Okay.
We do. Yeah.
So this is a very, I would say, looks like AI, if not definitely a template where they just added in your name there, right? So I rewrote this last night. I wanted to put together this. Tell me, you might still not respond to this. Let's pretend I'm a random person. But tell me if this is a little better, maybe a little bit more personalized and relevant.
Okay. Hey, Natalie, I loved your niche paradox webinar. Why, thank you. Yes.
Very good.
So a little bit of flattery. I'm not offended. One thing that stuck with me, you mentioned losing clients to better storytellers. Mind if I ask a quick question about that? I also noticed you're connected with Brian Case. How do you know him? Oh, I love this. I love that. No, I'm good. I would be like immediately.
Yeah, because maybe it generates some curiosity on your side. Okay, what is this question they're going to ask? They definitely tell me if. Well, what are you thinking? Maybe I should ask that. From this, does it sound like you're on my list? Like all I know is your name, or does it sound like I actually did my research and maybe even know a little bit about you?
I was going to say I do love the flattery, but the what actually made it hit home was that you mentioned something specific, right? That in the webinar, you mentioned losing clients to better storytellers. Like you actually watched it, right? You proved that, right? Mind if I ask you a quick question about that? You're also asking for my opinion. You're kind of recognizing that I have some expertise there. And so appreciated. So yeah, flattery, specifics, kind of deferring to me as an expert in something. That's wonderful. I have some appreciation there. You also called out somebody I know. So it's like really easy for me it's like a yes or no even answer for me to say, yes, I know Brian. So you've made it easy there. And like, how do you know him? Like, so the response there, you've also made it really easy for me to respond to you, which I love.
Yeah. And that's the goal, really, right? We want a yes or no almost response. And from this is where we're going to get into that give first offer. So I set this up. It is personalized as an example, but it also shows relevancy because what I'm saying is I'm making it easy for you to reply, right? And guys, I want to stress here, this took me 2 minutes. I did attend that webinar, but to build this message, I used AI. So I went in, I grabbed the transcript from that webinar, I plugged it into GPT. I got the main talking points. I pulled something from there. And then I looked at her connections and I saw we're connected to someone similar. So but it feels like I did a lot of research. I'm really interested in a question I have, right? So yeah. I think people can shy away from this saying, I don't have time to go watch all these webinars, and maybe they never end up actually responding. This can be done in under a couple minutes. You go there, you find something relevant about them, you include that in your message, right? Now,
so this is step one, right? This is the conversation that your client wants to have, right? You stepping back and thinking, it's not about me, it's about them. And if I was to put myself in their shoes, what would the kind of conversation would I love to have with me, right? So like, yeah, this is a conversation I would love to have.
Yeah, and this can set up so many different angles to give first, right? So let's say I work for 𝗕𝗿𝗍. Let's say I'm in the advisor space, you're in the advisor space, which you are. And I asked a question about storytellers. It's vague enough. We're like, all right, what is he going to ask? I can then from here say, hey, I put together this quick, storytelling tool for prospecting that our advisors have loved. Do you mind if I share that over? It's very quickly going to show, X, Y, and Z. Basically just something I'm giving to you. This isn't actually what I would say, but I'm probably a bad example, but I'm trying to iterate. From here, I could then give you something, which is that give first offer, the relevant outreach. It's going to build some trust. Maybe
Yeah.
it's insight. Maybe, in the advisor space, how people are using the 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗀𝗺 tool is, as you mentioned, it provides a prospect with a financial report card, an action item, things they can work on, insight into their situation. And so you're giving them free value. But after you start the conversation and prove that, hey, I'm not just about selling, right? I'm interested in you, what you're doing. Now I want to give you something.
Mm-hmm.
And the law of reciprocity is real. I think we all know that. So once I give something, that's where I can then say, then I can ask for something. Would you mind jumping on a call and talking about that? Right.
This is that step two we were talking about, where it's all about kind of documentation, and we call it like your receipts, but really like it's receipts of your authority, receipts of your expertise. So
Mhm.
that piece is a value piece for them, but also it shows your specialty, right? Like it shows off something that maybe you have more expertise and more experience in over another financial advisor, for example. But either way, it's proof that they can see that you have some experience or expertise in what you're talking to them about, right?
Yeah, and yeah, we always want to make sure with these, as we're showing that expertise, that it's relevant to what it is you want to talk about, right? But it
Right.
ties it to them. So, and I just want to stress that again, because I think oftentimes we get trapped in, if I personalize it, maybe you will get a response, but if it doesn't tie to what you're actually trying to talk about, that still feels weird and it still feels salesy. So even though you went to Hawaii on a vacation and I did too, and did you do this? Great. Shifting over into, now can I talk about this? It still doesn't flow as well.
Yeah.
So you want to try and find a tie to the thing you're selling, right?
Mhm.
But be relevant to everyone. So it's like, that's why I reached out. I
Mhm.
noticed this. That's why I reached out. And that could be, from something you generated. So I think oftentimes there's a lot of good leads or conversations we're leaving on the table. We hear all the time, push out content, be known, right? We can talk a little bit more about that. But what are you doing with the people that are actually engaging with your content when they view your profile, like your page, view your webinar, comment on your post? Those are great triggers to create relevancy and say, hey, I saw you attended my webinar, or I saw you liked my post. What did you like? Do you mind if I ask you a question? I'm trying to improve them. I just want to know what you liked about it or didn't like, right?
Yeah, and
So
this is also where having something like a content library of your thought leadership comes in handy, because as you're having these conversations, you can say like, I wrote an article on this, or, here's the link, or, I have a post on that explains that perfectly. And I think it could be super relevant for the struggle you're talking about. Or, you know what I mean? Just understanding the blog you have, the video, a little video that you put out, just understanding and having that kind of at your fingertips in some sort of content library makes that so much easier. Because yes, you can absolutely give the same lead magnet to everyone, but I sort of think that it's more impactful when you can, uncover some of those, because you're talking about starting off with some sort of struggle or compliment, and then kind of moving into maybe what their actual pain is before, and trying to surface that. And so then you're trying to be super helpful, right? That's what you're talking about
right.
now.
Yeah.
And so it would be wonderful if you could be helpful with something as relevant to their pain or struggle as possible, right?
Yeah, and ideally the thing you're giving is going to open up relevant conversations from the data you receive from that. So, if you're, let's say, you have a quiz or a survey or something like 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗀𝗺, that's going to provide them value, but it's going to give you a ton of data so you can personalize your response after that even more. You can say, I know you're struggling with, thanks for doing this. I saw this is your result from that. Mind if we have a conversation about that? Here's what I do there. It just opens it up better because it's more personalized. Again, it's not just thanks for viewing this. I want to talk about this. Now it's thanks for viewing this. I noticed from that this, in your life. That's pretty interesting. We should have a conversation about that.
And
Um,
is this where we kind of tip into like step 3, or the third part of this framework, where we're actually talking about permission based outreach. Is this the point where we're like, I have this. I think it'd be really relevant for what you're telling me. Can I share that with you?
Yeah, exactly. I would
Okay.
say
Yeah.
even this first message is pretty permission-based prospecting
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's, mind if I ask you a quick question about that? You're allowing them to say, yes, I will respond to your next thing, right? But ideally, you want to get to be able to give them something that gives you data back.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that is such an easier, conversation, real conversation starter about what you want to talk about. And you could see that could take one or two messages. Maybe it's an extra message, right? But
Yeah.
the trust there and the proof and the value is so much higher than just selling somebody something.
And if we think about everybody on LinkedIn here too, right? People are liking our content, or they are checking out our profiles and things like that. And that's sort of like an indicator a little bit that a lot of us will pick up on and use maybe to start a conversation. And so maybe if they are liking certain content like our posts and whatnot, I wonder if the conversation's more like, I saw that you enjoyed my post on this. Share a quick thought with them, asking them a really curious question to try and surface their pain and kind of understand what's going on for them in the moment, right? Like, even if it's like curious, like, why did this saw that you liked this post, saw that this resonated with you, and I'm curious, why did this resonate with you? Just to understand, like, why people are picking up on that piece of content in particular. And a lot of the times people will be like, yeah, I loved it. Like, I just really loved this part when you said this.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you just understand what might be going through their brain at the moment.
Yeah, I think curiosity is a superpower when it comes to sales. There's so many times, I'm sure everyone's experienced this,
Mm-hmm.
especially in my world, when you get on a demo with someone and you're showing them the software, you kind of can fall into a habit of assuming you know what they need.
Yeah.
But curiosity, it's okay to ask, why are you interested?
Mm-hmm.
Why now? Why me? Right? Those are okay questions. It's not going to push them away and say, you're right. Why you? Maybe I should go somewhere else. No, they're going to tell you, oh, I really liked this. That's going to help drive the conversation into relevancy again, which is just going to garner more trust there. So,
Mm-hmm.
when they're liking, when they're commenting, when they're checking out your profile, I think a great first message is, hey, Natalie, I saw you liked my post on this. Anything that stood out? That's great. I think that's perfect. That starts a conversation. Maybe they say, yeah, I've been struggling with X, Y, and Z, and this really helped me. That's great. That's exactly what I do. Would you want to talk about that a little bit? Or mind if I share this resource with you? Right. So it's a perfect way to kind of start that.
And even if you can relate to them a little bit there, like, oh, I saw that, you liked my post on this. A lot of the clients that I work with, and kind of go over what you had talked about in your post, experience this, and maybe letting them know that they're not alone in that pain or that struggle. What is it about this that resonated with you? Because of course you don't assume that that's the thing, but it also kind of lets them know, like, it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable here if this is also what you're going through, because I see it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that just gains more trust, right? And makes them feel more comfortable opening up even more. Mitesh had a comment here. He said, can you give another example of a message that can give data back before you invariably offer something? A lot of the prospects aren't really creating content on LinkedIn for us to refer to. That's a great point. It can be hard to find data for these prospects you're reaching out to. In that case, really, I would say the goal is, let's start a conversation about anything and then try and turn it into an offer that then gives you data back. So, I would say a good way to do that is, if you don't know much about them, try and connect over something they liked. You saw they went on vacation here. You did too. That's great. Then say, hey, I don't usually do this. I'm experimenting with something new. Would you mind if I sent you something just to get your feedback? It's free, whatever it is, your offer.
Yeah.
It can kind of make it seem like, okay, this guy seems kind of cool. He's now giving me something. That from that thing you're giving them is how you would extract the data to then start the relevant conversation.
Yeah.
I would
love
say,
that.
hopefully you can find something to start relevancy, but it can just be, hey, here's my resource. Make it feel like I don't do this all the time, right? This isn't part of my process. This is, I was just wondering, you seem like a cool guy. Could I maybe get your input on this?
Yeah.
From that thing you give them, they go through the survey, they go through the checklist. You then see, okay, they, in 𝗕𝗿𝗁𝗀, we give them a report card. You could see they failed this or they have a C in that. That sparks great conversations. Maybe if you do it on your own, you build, a quick checklist or anything like that, that can start conversations.
So you gave two really great examples there. Like you could, relate to them about something, personal, work, whichever. You can also kind of flatter them a little bit by asking for their advice, right? Turning to them for their expertise. So that's two really solid ways to start a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'm going to keep moving along here.
Yeah.
We're having a great conversation here. Okay. I do want to show you guys just some quick metrics. So what's working? We've been talking about this. So I'm going to skip over this, but basically relevancy, right? Real outreach, human to human interaction. Why it works. We've been talking about this too, but you're now a trusted peer, great reciprocity. Prospects do feel safer. And low pressure CTAs are way better. So just getting a great CTA is, a bad CTA is what we showed. Let's jump on a call to discuss how I can increase your revenue by 20%. You don't trust them. They don't know. But a better CTA is, do you mind if I send you this free thing that's going to benefit you? Or like from a website designer, let's say, if they offer to, put together a free landing page update for them, that's a way better CTA where it's just a yes. A checklist, a survey, that's great.
And so for anybody who doesn't know, CTA is call to action. So, right. And you're either ending each message with, a question of curiosity or some sort of permission-based ask that's sort of low, like low risk, low pressure. It's not going to be like a, something like opening the door to basically sell them. That feels risky, right? That feels like nobody really wants to jump into that. That's not an example of low risk. The example of low risk is, can I share this piece with you? Or can I share something that's been helpful for other clients that I've worked with, or for somebody who's been going through that experience? And, did you want to talk about that more on a call? That feels a little bit lower risk. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify there.
Yeah, definitely. Anything I would say in, that asks for a response or something they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I would say even, in the example message, I saw you connect with Brian Case. Do you know him? That's almost a call to action because it requires an answer. I didn't just say, hey, I loved your webinar. It's like, oh, okay. Maybe I'll respond, right? Okay, so I want to show some metrics here, just to kind of iterate the point on what's happening. I have the sources here if anyone's interested. We all know this. Personalization increases open rates. This was a study that was done last year by 26%.
Amazing.
I think they took a look at something like 250 million emails. Now, segmented campaigns, I know, you talk a lot about niche building. This is exactly what this is. So if you're sending the same message to everyone, you're going to have, or I guess, better messaging to smaller amount of people, 760% increase in this study. You guys can definitely go take a look at these studies. They're awesome. And then this last one here, personalization, again, just reiterating this point, with smaller audiences is the killer combination. So you can see here, sent to more than 100 prospects and personalized 13%, reply rate 24%, less than 100 prospects. And that's not just based on quantity. It's based off of a smaller pool. You can personalize more, right? So you're able to kind of niche down even more, right? And provide more relevancy. And then the automation, of course you can see some results from that, but it kind of is just iterating personalization and niching down are the kind of goal and killer combination here.
It is. This is what I keep telling them.
Yep. And then just a few kind of just to slide 𝗕𝗍𝗺 in there. I kept the names private because I didn't ask them for permission, but these are some recent users we had in 𝗕𝗍𝗺 and just the amount of leads they generated using 𝗕𝗍𝗍 as their ask first or give first tool. So
fantastic.
Okay. And that was the quick kind of intro. That took us a bit to get through, but I thought that was really good conversation promoter anyway. So I'm hoping people got some value out of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, before we continue on to kind of talk about how to standardize, how to start, right? Like, let's just make sure that there questions for Brock that we can kind of get in the comments now on any of the information that he shared or the way that he's suggesting we do it. Feel free to jump in the comments now and we'll get to them so that we have like a quick Q&A at the end of the 10 minutes to go make sure that we're reaching, everybody and answering as many questions as we can. But I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything you're saying. I feel like I love when other people kind of talk to the same things that I try and tell advisors all the time. There's a lot of fear around niching, right? And I talk to advisors about this all the time, and I always think it's important to mention that just because you do it doesn't mean you weren't scared to do it. Every single client that I work with has this nervousness around deciding to pivot to be even more relevant to a certain group of people or to a certain problem that people are having. To say that you are for something or you stand for something is scary, right? But I think that it goes a long way towards not only solidifying your authority, but then also, you're able to surf it. Like the people that do come to you usually are coming to you for similar reasons. And what it does is it actually helps you standardize how you're starting the relationship with them. Because advisors say this all the time, that you usually have to tackle those like big rocks that are like, in their mind that are preventing them or blocking them from doing the full scope of planning before you can kind of get to everything that you need to get to, right? That people always have those big rocks. And so when you're constantly addressing those big rocks initially, and if you're niche down, it's a lot of the times that those big rocks are the same. And so how you kick off the relationship is really important, but you can only get better when something is standardized. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I just feel like it just makes things so much easier when you have processes in place, right? And it makes things faster when you have processes in place. And so being able to standardize your onboarding process, especially around some of those common big rocks that are going to need to be tackled first, I think goes a long way towards helping people kind of free themselves up for the rest of the planning that you need to do. But also just having such an amazing first win with you. It's really important to have that first win that you've helped somebody, even in like a small way, so within like the first 30 days for sure. So they can really just see how the rest of this relationship is going to go.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think it's important to show they're on the right track, right? And you're providing them value, and they'll get the feeling that you'll continue to provide them value. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I have nothing to add there. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, someone's just mentioned here, Patrick's just maybe I'm misinterpreting, but this feels like outreach to more centers of influence as opposed to potential prospects. Is there a difference in approaching one versus the other? Oh, that's a great question. So is there a difference in approaching a COI or center of influence versus approaching a prospect, and how would this messaging maybe change, or how would you would it change? Would we think about things a little bit differently if we were reaching out to a COI versus a prospect?
I don't think it would change, just because I would like to get your thoughts, but really what we've been talking about is relevant. It comes down to the basics, which is all sales. Relevant outreach, providing something of value, building trust, and then asking for the thing. So
yeah,
exactly. So what do you think?
I agree. I don't think the steps change. Like if we think about the steps, right? So one, clarify the promise. So what is the conversation that the person on the other end wants to have? If that's a center of influence, maybe you can, I personally would maybe start off with a little bit of like, I saw this, man, that hit home because I deal with clients that had that same problem. You are on it. Totally agree. And then kind of getting a little curious about things like, but I've also had this, like, do you experience this, or have you also had that trouble? Or, relate to them. I find that COIs, it's even easier to relate to them because they're usually helping the same niche, or they're, solving the same kinds of problems. And so you actually have even more to talk to them about, or more, even more contacts in common, even. So I think that step doesn't change for COIs or prospects. Prospects is like just same thing. What's the conversation that this prospect would want to have? And it's more like, saw you interacted here, or it says this on your profile. Congratulations, I saw this post that you posted. I did that too, and here's what I experienced. But it's like, what's that conversation that step one just doesn't change for me. Step two, talking about documentation of the receipts. What is that thing that you are providing them of value that showcases your expertise? Again, if that's a center of influence, you want to again showcase your thought leadership, because you are, yes, it's a center of influence. You're nodding to them that they are the expert in this. Is there a way that you can also quickly let them know that you are an expert in blank, because you want them to very easily identify you and be known for something? So again, you still want to showcase your expertise there, just as you would with prospects. So you're setting kind of, and just like Brock said, it's about providing them something that not only showcases your expertise, but then helps them connect the dots in their brain as to the problems that you solve and how you solve them. Permission-based outreach, I think that applies to both prospects and COIs. Like 100%, you don't want to just start, verbal diarrheaing everything that you do and how you can help them. And you know what I mean? That again goes into those high risk messages that you talked about, Brock. It's more like, can I share this with you? And I think that's just polite. That's the Canadian in me, maybe, though.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just feel like that's just the polite thing to do. I'm not going to just jump in and make up, assumptions as to what I'm hearing or what I'm feeling might be going on for you. Can I share this? That would be the conversation that I would have. I'm hearing this, or I'm feeling like you're going this way. Can I share this with you to be helpful? Versus just like, I've got this, blah, right? That's so I think that definitely applies for both. And but I do agree. Step number 4, kind of talking about standardizing how you start and how this helps you identify those big rocks that are on people's brains that you maybe need to tackle first. And niching, of course, makes that a lot easier to standardize. But once you start to be able to target similar ideal clients, those big rocks start to all look the same a lot of the time. So it does help you to standardize that. Now, if you're targeting similar centers of influence, you can certainly develop a process around, starting the conversation with them, and And I honestly, I think that having a referral system that helps people, centers of influence, do this is also really important. So we're talking about the standardization of both. Yes, it looks a little bit different for COIs than it would for prospects, 100%. But the point, I think, remains the same. Does that help, Patrick? Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you for taking the time. Yes. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Now we've got 5 minutes left. So there is let's talk a little bit about 𝗧ology and how this is going to help advisors, and how advisors, if they feel like this is something, because I know that this is going to help them really very easily document their expertise, right? This is something, so we've given them some templates that they can take away and kind of use for themselves, some ideas. But if they're wanting to create something like a lead magnet, can 𝗧ology help them do that even easier?
Yes, definitely. First thing I want to mention there, though, is I did build a cold to warm LinkedIn DM playbook. I have it in a Google Doc, and so it has. This is not something you have to pay for. It has free tools you can use to create your own lead magnet. If anyone would like that, just comment on this live webinar and just say me or send it to me or anything like that, and I'll shoot it over to you.
Yeah, comment playbook in
That works.
the comments, and we will DM you the playbook.
It's going to go over how to identify the right prospects, research before messaging, defining your give first offer, creating that offer, crafting your first DM, how to document and deliver authority, track and iterate, things to remember, tools you can use instantly.
Oh, wonderful. So tools, examples, the steps all over again. This is honestly what everybody needs who attended this webinar today.
Yes. Then to jump into 𝗧ology, so how that helps, basically we have a lead magnet already built in that's going to help you standardize this process. And so it's something you can give first. It's going to provide everyone with value, because what it does is it runs them through a very quick survey and then highlights areas that they can improve and gives them a report card. That's kind of what we hear people love the most about our software, is the report card feature. So once they see that, that's where what we've been talking about all ties in. So they're going to see, okay, I have a D in this, I have an F in that. It starts such a good conversation for you because you have access to all of this data. So you can say, it puts you on the same side of the table. So you can then say, I'm not just trying to sell you, I'm working with you to improve these grades, and it standardizes it. So you can take that magnet, you can put it on your website, your LinkedIn, your ads, start, giving first, and then taking that data and providing value back. And it won't feel like you're pushy or you're anything like this. They'll be like, I would love to know how to improve this. I didn't know that I needed help here. Or maybe they did, and it opens up the conversation. So
if you are not great at like surfacing pain points or like surfacing the, what's really going on for people, I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to help you do that. It gives them something that they can kind of go through and get value out of 100%, but it also gives you the opportunity to really see like where they're not doing so hot and where you can make the most impact as soon as possible in the relationship, so you can get those quick wins for them and give them that experience that this is going to be a fantastic relationship and do nothing but improve your retention.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me mentioning, I kind of want to just prove that this process works. Do you mind if I just mention something? Okay. So for everyone on this webinar, I wanted to prove that the give first offer that's what works. So everyone who commented playbook kind of proved that, because me coming on here, providing value, I'm not asking for anything. I want to give that playbook.
Yes.
And it opens up a conversation and a good conversation. And so I'm going to shoot over that playbook to you guys. If you guys want to have a chat, that's great. I won't be pushy at all, but I wanted to just kind of prove and as the takeaway be, hey, this actually worked on me. I'm receiving value. This is definitely something you can take and use with your prospects. Give first, then ask for something after that, right? And really what you're asking for is for you to help them more. So
yes,
I wanted to kind of point that out.
Daniel, Ryan, James, Brian, Jeffrey, more. Good. We will get you that playbook. Thank you so much, Brock, for sharing this information with us. I think it's so important for, as things continue to evolve, to stay on top of the ways we can build trust as experts, as authorities, and make sure we're doing that in the right ways. So this has brought so much value to my audience. So thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Every first Thursday of the month, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.